today in this very short snippet, we're going to talk about a few lessons of communication from the film Swades. The stars, the rainbow and the ocean. Well, these are the universal elements that the protagonist Mohan Bhargav, that is Shah Rukh Khan, makes use of beautifully to communicate his message in the film. The film is about, as I'm sure a lot of you have watched the film already, it's a long one. It's about an NRI, non-returning Indian, as as Geeta in the film, the heroine, calls him, and it's about how he is a scientist, beautifully acclimatized in Washington DC, and he comes to India to look for his nanny, the woman who's brought him up, particularly after he's lost his parents in a car crash. And the film opens, with him shot at Washington DC, and how he comes to India, and the stark contrast between the two worlds. And they could actually be from two different planets completely. And he comes here looking for his nanny, and in a village, which is it's a fictitious village. It's called Charanpur, and Charanpur is afflicted, like most Indian villages are, with a scourge of casteism and illiteracy and poverty and lack of development, and how he grapples with those realities in India, and how he uses communication to bridge the gap between the two. For instance, there's this delightful scene in the film when he's explaining the concept of the internet to the postman, and how he explains it through the email. And we realize that he's using the postman's frame of reference to get his message across more effectively. And there is another one when he wants to convince the people in the village to get their kids enrolled in the local school, and he speaks to people from both the high caste as well as the lower caste, and he uses the postman and the local dhaba owner as his allies. He gets them on to his side, and he realizes that with them by his side, he can get across the message far more effectively than he would have done had he just done it all by himself. In another delightful scene in the film, when the villagers are all set to watch the commercial pot boiler Yadon Ki Barat, and there's a power cut, and which puts a spanner in the works. So he decides to show the villagers the stars and the constellation, and he could have so easily have shown them the Cygnus or the Orion or the Andromeda. Instead of that, he shows them the Big Dipper or the plough, as something that the villagers can so easily identify with, and which is also so easy to trace. We also see in the film the language that Mohan uses to speak to the villagers. It's the vocabulary that he's picked up from Kaveri Amma and Geeta, and he uses them throughout the film. Words like Swabhiman and Azadi, Atmanirbhar, words which don't come easily to him. But he makes judicious use of these words so that he can communicate to the villagers at their level, which doesn't mean really coming down to their level, just speaking to them in a language that is so easily comprehensible. In the latter part of the film, when he decides to get power to the village, he uses the trust that he has built up with the Sarpanch over a period of time, and gets him to give him 100 men to work to build the power line. And he's constantly communicating to the villagers as how he plans to generate electricity from flowing water. And he's committed, he's passionate, he throws himself wholeheartedly into the task, and all these things just supplement his oral communication. In his stand on how the country is doing, we see him evolving from a very jaded, cynical attitude towards a more constructively critical one. In fact, in the scene, he just dismisses Geeta's point of view, and she, of course, is the very, very idealistic one. But then he does come around to her point of view in the end, which, of course, helps him land the girl as well. So, what lessons do we learn from Mohan about effective communication? The first one, I guess, would be always use the recipient's frame of reference to get your message across more effectively. The next one I'd probably say is that in an alien environment, get local allies to support you. That's really very effective. The third one I'd probably say is that use your skills to benefit their cause. The fourth one would probably be speak in a language that your recipients can understand. That's very, very important. The fourth one could be that your body language should always support what you are saying. For instance, when Mohan is garnering support for his electricity project, the passion and the commitment, the enthusiasm, all that is reflected in his body language as well. And the last one perhaps would be, I think it's very important, for communication to be two-way, it's very essential that you should have an open mind. And you must always learn to listen to people who are perhaps closer to the issue than you are. That way, it will definitely hit home. The message will hit home. If Mohan communicates very effectively with the villagers, they send equally strong messages to him as well. The time when he goes to collect overdue rent from a farmer, and when he goes there, he realizes the man is living in such abject poverty. Despite that, he is given a meal of hot bajra rotis and a cot to sleep on. Or the time when the kid at the railway station sells him a cup of water for 25 paise, and that's the time when Mohan lets go of his beloved mineral water bottle. Or the time when the potters talk to him about the hopelessness of their children's future. Or the time when the film, when they're watching the film Yadon Ki Baarat, and there is a very clear divide between the upper caste and the lower caste, and the lower caste watching the film in reverse images. And finally, I think, the look of utter joy and incredulousness on the old lady's face when she sees a lit bulb, perhaps for the first time. In the end, of course, the villagers are devastated to learn that he has decided to go back. They try convincing him that he is needed far more here in Charanpur than at Nasa, because there was only one Mohan Bhargav here. He goes back, and ultimately it's that box of memories that Geeta has given him that haunts him, and perhaps proves to be the trigger in him coming back. In all this, there's one very important lesson that is to be taken from here, is that the best communication is the one that comes straight from the heart, without any frills, without any kind of trimmings. This is Dr. Seema Khanvilkar signing off for now, and perhaps I'll go and watch that song for the nth time, Ye Jo Desh Hai Mera.